Adorama TV presents How'd They Do That?, where we explore the world of professional photographers and share their techniques with you. Here's your host, Mark Wallace.
Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of How'd They Do That? I'm Mark Wallace. Well, this week on the show we have a portrait, lifestyle, and wedding photographer. Her name is Diana Elizabeth, and we caught up with her in her office. So here's our chat with Diana Elizabeth. All right, well, here we are with Diana. Thank you so much for inviting us to your space here. This is actually a room in your house that you converted to a studio, is that right?
It used to be my second bedroom, a guest room, but it wasn't really utilized. So I figured if I put in some hardwood floors, it would be better off as an office.
It's awesome. I love this place, and it's a great place to meet clients and just do some work. Yeah. Well, let's talk about some of your clients. You shoot weddings, you shoot portraits. Tell us a little bit about that. I
shoot a lot of maternity, newborns, and weddings as well. So
all people?
All people.
No still lifes?
Unless I have them hold something.
Yeah, so if it doesn't talk to you, forget it. You're not...
No, not really interested.
So all that kind of stuff. Great. Well, let's talk about the kind of shooting you do, because this is actually not a studio space. This is an office space and where you meet clients. And do you have a studio?
I don't. I prefer natural lighting. So I like to go out in fields or parks and things like that.
So everything's on location.
Everything is.
All your wedding stuff is very photojournalistic, which I love.
Yes.
So amazing stuff. Well, let's talk. We have some photos here that I want to go through. But first, let's talk about the kind of cameras that you use. Tell us about this guy here, the Olympus OM1.
My dad gave this to me for Christmas. Or actually it wasn't Christmas. It was when I was back home over the summer. And it was just when I already knew about photography, so I actually got excited about it because I knew how to use it. So it took me back.
And I love this thing because my first camera is actually an Olympus OM10, which is very, very similar to this. So it brings back memories. But now actually you're shooting with this guy here. This is the Canon 5D Mark II, full frame. Now tell us a little bit about the lenses that you use. I noticed a lot of your images have really shallow depth of field, which makes everything look great. Are you shooting mainly with the 50mm?
Usually I stick with the 50. If there tends to be a gorgeous backdrop or setting, then I'll switch to the 35. Right. 1.8, I believe is what I have.
Okay. And you also have a 70 to 200.
35, 1.4, sorry.
Okay, that's all right. And you have a 70 to 200 lens?
I do. I use that
actually have it down here.
Yeah, you can go through my camera bag.
Yeah. Look at that.
I use that for ceremonies, so I'm not up close and I can still allow them to be intimate and not be in other people's ways, like guests and things like that.
And so this is, during the ceremony you're shooting this?
Ceremony only.
Okay, and so at the reception you're on a 50 or just a 85 maybe? 85
maybe. Sometimes if I'll let the couple go off and let them have their moment, but I need to get a little bit closer.
And now do you prefer getting, like, I mean, with this lens, you really have to get in close.
Yeah.
So is that something that you prefer because you're sort of in the moment? I mean, me, I like to get back a little ways, but...
You know, my clients don't seem to mind, and I think I make a bond really quickly with them, so they're okay with it. I haven't had any complaints so far. But if I feel like if I scoot back a little bit, they'll be a little more intimate, then I'll switch to an 85.
Yeah, so I'm looking at some of these shots of Allison and Diana Elizabeth, well, Allison Shiloh, because that's...
Allison and Shiloh.
Allison and Shiloh, okay. Some of these shots, just beautiful. Are these shot with the 50? How did you, tell us a little bit how you shot these images?
Those are with the 50, and actually the one where she's laughing over his shoulder, I said, Shiloh, I give you full permission to grab her butt. And so he did, and that was the reaction that she gave. And I like to allow my couples to be in their own element, and I told him to get on the ground for this next shot, and I said, I'm just gonna switch lenses really quickly, and he was just playing with her hair. And I just said, stay right there, because that is something that they would normally do, and that's what I want to capture at those moments. Another
really interesting thing that you do is you really crop tightly. I mean, really tight. In fact, some of these shots, their faces aren't even in the picture. They're like chopped out.
I really do it on purpose.
Yeah, and so when clients see that, do they love it? Do they go, what the heck, my face is chopped off? Some of these, I just love this. I love that style. But
yes.
When did you start doing that and why?
You know, when I started, I would always ask them to bring props. Flowers. And when girls were engaged, they would love to show off the ring. So I would crop and get that. So it started to, I would back up a little bit. Then I realized how beautiful the collarbone is and holding something, or the details of a shirt. And so, or even when they bring sprinkles cupcakes to an engagement session.
Right.
it just seems to be my style where I backlight them and overexpose, and it just adds a little more detail.
Yeah, and the neat thing is, so your background, you have a background in journalism and graphic design and modeling.
Yes.
And so it's obvious that you bring all of that into your storytelling, because you can sort of see how you're, walking through these different moments. Like there's a shot that I really love of the hands on the tummy. It's the heart shape, so it tells the story. We're going to have a kid and we love that little baby that's not here yet. But you also, it looks like you have these great details, like the car where you have not even the entire steering wheel, but just a little portion of it. And here's the chrome, and here's the fine details, or the horse, and here's the, the star on that horse. Again, is that something that you pre-visualize, or when you get to a location you just go, cool?
Oh my gosh, I get nervous before every session, always. And I never know what is going to happen, what the weather's going to look like. If there ends up being 10 families there, so I'm shooting like into Disneyland, and I just have to trust that I will find the little details. And that's what I look for, is when I'm going through, and I'm looking through my viewfinder, it's kind of like ADD. I'm looking at the lighting, I'm looking at the way my clients are posed, because I'm looking for good angles and modeling poses. I'm used to be a stylist as well, so I'm looking at wardrobe. Are there buttons missing, threads? I'm just going through, and I'm just like, okay, click.
Right, so it's all of that.
It's a lot. I feel like I am exhausted after a shoot because my brain is on overload. But I think it's important for me, it's not just capturing a couple and what they're doing, but it's the details of the way that he holds her or the way they hold hands.
Right.
I look for that because I think that tells more of a story, and couples really like that because they just feel like, oh, you got our Converse sneakers. We're just the Converse type of couple.
Right. So one of the things that I think is interesting, so a lot of the people that are watching this show are emerging professionals. Those are the people that are they want to become a professional. They're not quite there yet. And we get lots of emails, hundreds of emails. And one of the things that people comment a lot about is, at what point do you stop being nervous at a shoot? And at what point do you know everything that you need to know about what to set your camera on? And I think it's funny because I think the secret is you never...
You don't, I don't. When I'm there, maybe that's when I should retire. I don't know.
Yeah. So, I mean, do you have advice for those people that, maybe are a little nervous about taking on that first professional job?
Yeah, I would say shoot until you're comfortable. I think I shoot completely on manual mode. I think it's important to be able to know where to find good lighting. So if you're in a situation, there's got to be one spot in that whole location that you can shoot and be confident that you're going to get a good shot and good lighting. But it's the confidence of knowing that your product is getting stronger, but I don't think I'm ever going to be like, piece of cake when I go into this. There's no way. There's people involved. There's weather elements. Something can be closed. I mean, you can go, there's so many things that can go wrong. And so I think that what's important to me is when I shoot, I try to shoot as perfectly out of the camera. I know that I overexpose a bit, so it's less Photoshop. I don't like to be in front of Photoshopping. That's not where I feel like I should correct my images. So I show my clients immediately after I take a shot so they can see, do you need to reposition anything? Right. And so I would say when you feel that confidence that you can go out and you're comfortable around people and you know your camera settings really well, then go for it.
So, I mean, being a little nervous is different than not preparing. So,
right.
And I know that you prepare almost to the point of being over-prepared. What are the things that you do to prepare yourself for a shoot?
Well, depending on what time the shoot is, a couple hours before, I'll check all of my equipment, but always the night before, I'm making sure all of my batteries are charged. I have a backup battery. I make sure my lenses are clean, and I put them in my shoot sack. Everything is prepared so I can just put it on and go. It's really important to me because you are getting paid, and so you need to be prepared as possible for that job.
Well, thanks so much for letting us hang out with you today. Tell us again where we can find your work.
DianaElizabeth.com and DianaElizabethblog.com.
Diana Elizabeth blog, DianaElizabeth.com. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for hanging out.
Thank you.
Well, there you have it, our interview with Diana Elizabeth. To see more of her work, visit DianaElizabeth.com. untitled.com. Well, if you have somebody that you'd like to see on How They Do That, please send your suggestion to me at askmark@adorama.com. Thanks for joining me. I'll see you again next week.
This episode is brought to you by Adorama TV. Visit the Adorama Learning Center where you'll find photography tips and techniques, links to the gear used in this episode, and related videos. For all the latest photography, video, and computer gear, visit Adorama.com. And the next time you're in New York City, visit our store located on 18th Street between 5th and 6th Avenue.